During a violent snowstorm, an elderly woman, poor lonely, and shivering by the fireplace from both cold and fear, was startled when a sudden knock echoed through her cabin. Outside stood a man with his fragile young daughter, desperately pounding on the door for help. As she hesitated, the child's weak cough cut through the storm, forcing her to open the door and bring them inside to warm up and care for them. What she didn't know was that this small act of kindness would soon change the rest of her life. Before we go back, let us know where you're watching from, and subscribe, because tomorrow I've got something extra special for you. The wind screamed like a wounded animal. Esther Coleman pressed her back against the worn armchair fingers wrapped tight around the iron poker from her fireplace. Outside, snow hammered against the windows of her cabin, thick, angry flakes that had been falling for 6 hours straight. The radio crackled with static before the Weather Service warning cut through again. Cedar Hollow residents advised to shelter in place. Road crews suspended operations until morning. She turned the volume down with shaking hands. 70 years old, and she'd never gotten used to Colorado winters. Not really. The cabin groaned under the wind's assault. Every timber, every nail that her late husband Samuel had hammered into place 30 years ago now sang with stress. The electricity had been flickering for the past hour on again, casting strange shadows across the walls covered with water-stained wallpaper she couldn't afford to replace. Esther pulled the threadbare blanket tighter around her shoulders. The fireplace helped, but only so much. Her joints ached in the cold knees, back fingers, the kind of deep bone pain that reminded her daily she wasn't young anymore, that she was alone up here on this hill, a mile from the nearest neighbor. Alone was safer, she'd told herself. After last year, her eyes drifted to the empty spot on the mantel where Samuel's pocket watch used to sit. Gone now, sold to a pawn shop in town along with most everything else worth selling. But that wasn't what hurt most. What hurt was the memory of how it disappeared. The woman at the door had seemed so desperate, middle-aged, crying, saying her car had broken down and she just needed to use the phone. Esther had let her in, of course she had. That's what you did. That's what Samuel would have done. That's what her mama had taught her. You help people, Esther. That's what we're here for. She'd made tea, offered the woman a seat by the fire, stepped into the kitchen for just 5 minutes. When she came back, the woman was gone. So was Samuel's watch, his wedding ring that Esther kept in the drawer, the $70 in emergency money, even the small silver frame holding their wedding photo. The police had been polite but useless. Ma'am, we'll file a report, but honestly, folks like that are long gone by now. Folks like that, folks who saw an old black woman living alone and figured she was easy prey. Esther stared into the fire now, watching the flames lick at the last piece of firewood. She'd have to make it through the night on this, and maybe one more log. Wood was expensive. Everything was expensive. The Social Security check barely covered the property tax and utilities. The part-time cleaning job at the library had been enough, just barely, until the town council cut funding last month. She was 70 years old, and she was losing her grip on the only life she had left. The wind shrieked again, and something banged against the side of the house. Esther jerked upright, poker clutched in both hands. Her heart hammered. Just the wind. Just a branch maybe. Just bang, bang, bang. This time it was unmistakable. Someone was at her door. No. Esther's breath caught in her throat. No, no, no. The banging came again, harder, frantic. Hello, hello, please. A man's voice barely audible over the storm. Please, somebody help us. Esther stood frozen, every muscle in her body locked tight. Her mind screamed at her, don't you dare. Remember last time. Remember what happened. My daughter. The voice cracked with desperation. She's sick. Please, we're freezing out here, daughter. The word cut through her fear like a blade. Esther's feet moved before her brain could stop them. She crept toward the door, poker still raised, and peered through the small window beside the frame. Through the frosted glass, she could barely make out the shape of a large man. He was hunched over, cradling someone in his arms, a child, small, limp head lolling against the man's shoulder. Please, he shouted again. I can see your light. Please open the door. Esther's hand trembled on the poker. Her throat felt like sandpaper. She wanted to call out to tell him to go away, to leave her alone. But her eyes stayed fixed on that small shape in his arms. What if it's real? A voice whispered in her head. What if that child dies out there because you were too scared? But another voice, harder and louder. What if it's a trick? What if he robs you, hurts you? What if... A sound cut through her spiraling thoughts. Small, weak. A cough, the wet, rattling kind that came from deep in the lungs. The kind she remembered from when Samuel had pneumonia. The kind that meant someone was really, truly sick. Esther closed her eyes. She saw her mama's face, heard her voice. We don't turn folks away in the cold, baby girl. We don't become hard just because the world is hard. She saw Samuel grinning at her on their wedding day. You got the biggest heart of anyone I know, Essie. Don't ever let nobody take that from you. But she also saw that empty mantle, felt the echo of betrayal. The coughing came again, weaker this time. Esther's hand moved to the deadbolt. She hesitated 1 second, 2, 3, then slid it open with a click that seemed to echo through the entire cabin. The chain lock next. Her arthritic fingers fumbled with it. Then the door handle. She pulled the door open 6 inches, poker raised high, and the storm rushed in with a blast of icy wind that nearly knocked her backward. The man stood on her porch, snow caked in his hair and across his broad shoulders. His face was red and raw from the cold. In his arms, wrapped in a soaking wet coat, was a little girl, maybe 8 years old, pale as death eyes half closed. "Thank God," the man gasped. "Thank God. Please, she's burning up with fever. Our car, the road, I didn't know where else." "Stop." Esther's voice came out stronger than she felt. She kept the poker between them. "You put that child down on the chair right there." She pointed to the old rocking chair on the porch. "You stay right where I can see you. You understand me?" The man nodded quickly, desperately. "Yes, yes, ma'am. Anything. Just please, do it. Now." He moved slowly, carefully, and lowered the girl into the rocking chair. The child's head lolled to one side. Her breathing was shallow, rapid. Even from here, Esther could see the flush of fever on her cheeks. "You take off that wet coat," Esther commanded. "Leave it on the porch. Then you can carry her inside. But you walk slow. You try anything, and I'll crack your skull open. You believe me." "I believe you." The man's voice shook. He stripped off his coat with fumbling hands, letting it drop to the snow-covered porch. Underneath, he wore a flannel shirt and jeans both soaked through. He looked up at her eyes, pleading. "I'm not here to hurt you. I swear to God." "We'll see," Esther said. She stepped back, poker still raised. "Pick her up. Come inside. Slow." The man scooped the girl back into his arms and stepped across the threshold. Esther backed away, keeping distance between them, eyes never leaving his hands. "Put her on the couch," she ordered, "the one by the fire." He did as she said, laying the girl down gently on the sagging sofa. The child whimpered but didn't wake. Her small chest rose and fell in quick, shallow gasps. Esther's heart twisted despite herself. She'd seen enough sickness in her life to know trouble when she saw it. "What's your name?" she demanded. "Ethan. Ethan Ward." He knelt beside the couch, one hand on his daughter's forehead. "This is Lila. She's 8. She started feeling sick this morning, and then we got stuck. The road was completely blocked by snow, and the car died, and I saw your light." "Stop talking." Esther moved closer, poker still in hand, and looked down at the child. Lila's lips were dry and cracked. Her skin had that papery quality sick kids got when they were dehydrated. Fever definitely. High one too. "When'd she last have water?" I don't know. A few hours. We've been walking since the car quit." "Walking in this." Esther's voice sharpened. "How far?" "Maybe 2 miles. I thought we'd find help sooner." "I didn't." His voice broke. "I didn't know what else to do." Esther studied him. Really looked. His face was pale under the cold burn, lined with exhaustion and fear. His hands trembled as he smoothed his daughter's hair back from her forehead. Every movement screamed father, the protective hunch of his shoulders, the way he positioned himself between Esther and the child, the raw panic in his eyes. But she'd been fooled before. "You sit in that chair." She pointed to the wooden chair in the corner farthest from the door. "You don't move unless I tell you to. I have a phone. I call the police. They'll be here in 20 minutes. Storm or no storm. You understand, it was a lie." The phone lines had been down since 6 o'clock, but he didn't need to know that. "Yes, ma'am." Ethan sank into the chair, hands gripping his knees. "Whatever you want. Just please help her." Esther set the poker within reach but not in hand and knelt beside the couch. Her knees screamed in protest, but she ignored them. She pressed the back of her hand against Lila's forehead, burning. The child was burning up. "Lila, baby." she said softly. "Can you hear me?" The girl's eyelids fluttered. "Mama," she whispered. Ethan made a choked sound. "No, honey," Esther said. "Not Mama. But you're safe now. You're inside where it's warm." She stood slower this time, joints protesting, and moved to the kitchen. She filled a glass with water, grabbed a clean washcloth from the drawer, and wet it with cool water. When she returned, Ethan hadn't moved from the chair. "Good." Esther lifted Lila's head gently and held the glass to her lips. "Small sips, baby. Just small sips." The girl drank weakly, water dribbling down her chin. Esther wiped it away with the cloth, then laid the cool fabric across Lila's forehead. "She needs medicine," Ethan said quietly. "Fever reducer. Do you have any?" "Maybe." Esther stood again, watching him. "You stay put." She went to the bathroom and rummaged through the medicine cabinet. There, a half-empty bottle of children's ibuprofen left over from when her grandbaby used to visit, before her son died, before everything fell apart. When she came back, Ethan was exactly where she'd left him, hands still gripping his knees, eyes fixed on his daughter. Esther measured out the dose and coaxed Lila into swallowing it with more water. The girl coughed a wet rattle that made both adults wince. "That cough sounds bad," Esther said. "I know." Ethan's voice was hollow. "I was trying to get her to her grandmother's, my mother-in-law. She lives in Pine Ridge, about 40 miles from here. I thought we could beat the storm. That was foolish." "I know." He dropped his head into his hands. "God, I know." Silence fell, broken only by the howl of wind and the crackle of fire. Esther stood between the man and the door, still wary, still watching. But something in her chest had started to ease. Maybe it was the way he hadn't moved an inch from that chair. Maybe it was the way his whole body seemed to curl toward his daughter, like a plant toward the sun. Maybe it was just the bone-deep exhaustion in his voice. Or maybe it was the memory of her own son years ago, that last winter before the accident. The way she'd held him when he was sick. The way she'd prayed. "You got any other family?" she asked. "No." Ethan didn't look up. "My wife, Lila's mother, she died 3 years ago. Cancer. It's just been the two of us since then." The words landed heavy in the small room. Esther felt them settle somewhere in her chest, familiar and painful. "I'm sorry," she said, and meant it. "Me too." He finally raised his head, meeting her eyes. "Look, I know you don't have any reason to trust me. I get it. But I swear on my daughter's life, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm not here to steal from you. I'm just—" His voice cracked again. "I'm just trying to keep her alive." Esther looked at him for a long moment. Then she looked at Lila, whose breathing had started to even out, whose face looked a little less flushed in the firelight. She thought about her mama's voice, about Samuel's laugh, about the empty mantle and the lock on her door, about the difference between being careful and being closed. "All right," she said finally. "You can stay. Tonight. Storm's too bad to send you back out anyway, but you sleep in that chair. You don't move around this house unless I say so. And if I get even a hint that you're lying to me, you won't." Ethan's shoulders sagged with relief. Thank you so much." "Don't thank me yet," Esther muttered. She picked up the poker again and settled back into her armchair where she could see both the door and both her unexpected guests. "We got a long night ahead of us." Outside, the storm howled on. The fire crackled low, casting dancing shadows across the cabin's walls. Esther hadn't moved from her chair in over an hour. Neither had Ethan. The girl Lila slept fitfully on the couch, occasionally whimpering or coughing. Esther's eyes burned with exhaustion, but she didn't dare close them. Not yet. Not until she was sure. "How long have you lived here?" Ethan asked quietly, breaking the silence. Esther considered not answering, but the quiet was starting to press on her chest, and maybe talking would keep her alert. 32 years. My husband built this place himself. It's solid. Good bones. Samuel knew what he was doing. She shifted in her chair, her back aching. Worked construction his whole life. Plumbing, too. Could fix anything. Is he dead? 5 years now. The word came out flat. She'd said it so many times it had lost its edge. Almost. Heart attack. Went fast. Didn't suffer much. "I'm sorry." "You said that already." Esther's tone was sharper than she meant it. She softened slightly. "But thank you." Another silence. The wind rattled the windows. Esther watched Ethan watching his daughter. His face was still pale, but the raw panic had faded to something more like exhausted vigilance. She recognized that look. She'd worn it herself, sitting beside Samuel's hospital bed, counting his breaths. "What about you?" she asked. "What kind of work you do?" Ethan hesitated. I work in business, management stuff. It's not very interesting." "Uh-huh." Esther narrowed her eyes. Something in the way he said it felt off. Not quite a lie, but not quite the whole truth either. Management where? Construction supplies, equipment. He shifted in the chair, uncomfortable. "Like I said, not interesting." He's hiding something, Esther thought. But then weren't they all? She was sitting here with a poker in reach, pretending she had a working phone. Everyone had secrets. "Your wife," she said, then paused. "If you don't mind me asking, what kind of cancer?" Ethan's face went very still. "Breast, stage 4 by the time they found it. She fought for 18 months. Lila was only 5 when he stopped, swallowed hard. She doesn't really remember her mom. Not much. That's the part that kills me. Sarah was. She was everything, and Lila barely remembers her." "That's hard." Esther's voice was gentler now. "Real hard." "Yeah." He rubbed his face with both hands. "Some days I feel like I'm drowning, like I'm doing everything wrong. Tonight I almost got her killed because I thought I could outrun a storm." "You didn't, though." "Didn't what?" "Get her killed. She's right there, breathing. Fever's already coming down some." Esther gestured with her chin toward the couch. "You made a bad call, but you kept walking. You found help. That counts for something." Ethan looked at her, something like surprise in his eyes. "You're being awfully kind to someone who showed up on your doorstep in the middle of a blizzard." "Don't mistake me," Esther said firmly. "I'm watching you. I'll keep watching you all night if I have to, but—" She paused, choosing her words. "But I remember what it's like, being alone with a sick child, feeling like the whole world's on your shoulders." "You have kids?" The question landed like a punch. Esther's fingers tightened on the arm of her chair. "Had a son, David. He died 12 years ago, car accident. He was only 34. "Jesus, I'm sorry." "Life's hard," Esther said simply. "We all carry something." They sat with that for a while. The fire popped. Lila stirred, mumbling something neither of them could make out, then settled again. "I need to put more wood on the fire," Esther said, starting to stand. "Let me." Ethan was already moving. "No." Esther grabbed the poker. "I said stay put." "I'm just—" He stopped, hands raised. "I'm just trying to help. You're hurting. I can see it. Let me put the wood on. I can handle my own damn fire." "I know you can." His voice was patient. "But you've been taking care of my daughter for hours. Let me do one thing, please." Esther studied him. His hands were still raised, non-threatening. His face was open, honest, and her back was screaming. "Fine," she said finally, "but slow. And I'm watching." Ethan moved to the woodpile beside the fireplace slowly, just as she'd ordered, and selected 2 logs. He placed them carefully on the dying fire, adjusted them with the poker, then stepped back to his chair. "Thank you," Esther said grudgingly. "You're welcome." The fresh wood caught flames licking up the sides. The room warmed slightly. Esther felt some of the tension leave her shoulders. "Can I ask you something?" Ethan said. "Depends on the question." "Why'd you open the door, really? You were terrified. I could hear it in your voice when you first spoke, but you opened it anyway." Esther was quiet for a long time. She looked at Lila, then at the empty space on her mantle, then into the fire. "Year ago," she said slowly, "I let someone in. Woman about your age. Said her car broke down, needed help. I made her tea. Gave her a place to warm up." She paused, the memory bitter on her tongue. "When I came back from the kitchen, she was gone. So was everything valuable I had. Money, my husband's watch, even our wedding photo." Ethan's face darkened. "God, I'm so sorry. Police didn't do nothing about it, and I told myself never again. Lock the doors, keep the world out. Safer that way." She met his eyes. "But then you showed up, and I heard that little girl cough, and I thought—" Her voice thickened. "I thought about my mama, about what she'd say if I let a child freeze to death on my porch because I was scared. That took courage. Or stupidity." Esther's laugh was harsh. "Still don't know which." "Courage," Ethan said firmly. "Definitely courage." They fell silent again, but this time the silence felt different, less suspicious, less sharp. Around 2 in the morning, Lila woke up crying. "Daddy!" Her voice was small and frightened. "Daddy, where are we?" Ethan was out of his chair in an instant. "I'm here, baby. Right here." He knelt beside the couch, stroking her hair. "We're safe. We're inside, out of the snow. I'm cold. I know you are." He looked helplessly at Esther. She was already moving, arthritis be damned. She went to the bedroom and returned with her own quilt, the one Samuel's mother had made, the one she'd been saving, the one she never let anyone else use. Without a word, she draped it over the little girl. Lila's fingers clutched at the fabric. "It's soft," she murmured. "You keep that around you good and tight," Esther said. "You hear me?" "Yes, ma'am." The child's eyes were already closing again. Ethan looked up at Esther, and his eyes were wet. "Thank you," he whispered. Esther just nodded. Her throat felt too tight for words. She returned to her chair. The night stretched on. Around 4 in the morning, Esther's eyes finally began to close despite her best efforts. Her head nodded forward, the poker slipping slightly in her grip. "Mrs. Coleman." Ethan's voice was soft. "Esther." She jerked awake. What's wrong?" "Nothing. Nothing's wrong, but you need to sleep. You've been up all night. I can see you're exhausted." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You're about to fall out of that chair." He held her gaze. "Look, I know you don't trust me, but Lila's asleep. The door's locked. Where am I gonna go? Let yourself rest for a few hours. I'll wake you if anything changes. You could rob me blind while I'm sleeping." "I could have done that already." Ethan gestured around the small cabin. "I've been here for hours. I know where everything is. If I wanted to steal from you, I would have already." It was true. Esther knew it was true. And God, she was so tired. "You wake me if that girl gets worse," she said finally. "I will. I promise. And if you touch one thing that isn't yours, I won't. I swear." Esther looked at him one more time, searching his face for any sign of deception. She found only exhaustion, worry, and something that looked like genuine respect. "All right," she said. She kept the poker in her lap, but she let her eyes close. Within minutes, she was asleep. She woke to the smell of food. Esther's eyes snapped open. Morning light, weak and gray, filtered through the windows. The storm had quieted to a steady fall of snow. And in her kitchen, someone was cooking. She grabbed the poker and lurched to her feet, pain shooting through her back and knees. "Whoa, hey, it's just me." Ethan appeared in the kitchen doorway, hands raised. "Just me. I'm making breakfast, that's all." "I didn't say you could." "I know. I'm sorry. But you have eggs and some bread, and I thought after everything, the least I could do is make breakfast." He gestured toward the couch. "Lila's still sleeping. Fever broke around dawn. She's doing better." Esther processed this information, slowly, still fogged with sleep. Lila was better. That was good. This man was in her kitchen cooking her food. That was, well, she wasn't sure what that was. "What are you making?" she asked suspiciously. "Scrambled eggs and toast. That's it. Basic stuff." He paused. "You like hot sauce? I found some in the cabinet." "On eggs, hell yes." The corner of his mouth twitched up. "Me too." Esther lowered the poker slightly. "Fine, but I'm watching you. I expect nothing less." 10 minutes later, they sat at her small kitchen table, Esther on one side, Ethan on the other, eating scrambled eggs off mismatched plates. The food was simple but hot, and Esther couldn't remember the last time someone else had cooked for her. "These are good," she said grudgingly. "Thanks. Sarah taught me. She said I had to learn at least 3 dishes, or she'd divorce me." His smile was sad. "I learned 5 just to be safe." "Smart man." "Not smart enough." He pushed his eggs around his plate. "If I was smart, we wouldn't have been on that road last night. You're human. Humans make mistakes." "Yeah, but when you're all your kid has mistakes can be..." He stopped himself. "Sorry, I'm being maudlin. You're being a parent." Esther took another bite. "It's terrifying. The weight of it. I remember." They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Then Lila's small voice called out, "Daddy." Both adults were on their feet instantly. Lila sat up on the couch, the quilt pooled around her waist. Her color was better still, pale but not deathly. Her eyes were clearer. "Hey, Pumpkin." Ethan knelt beside her. "How do you feel?" "Weird. Tired." She looked around the cabin, taking in her surroundings for the first time. "Where are we?" "We're at Miss Esther's house. She helped us when we got stuck in the snow. Remember, you were really sick." Lila's gaze landed on Esther, who stood in the kitchen doorway. "Hi," the little girl said softly. "Hi yourself," Esther replied. "Thank you for helping us." Something in Esther's chest cracked open. "You're welcome, baby." "Are you my grandma?" The question hit Esther like a physical blow. Ethan's face went red. "Lila, no." "It's all right," Esther said, though her voice came out rough. She moved closer slowly and sat in the armchair. "No, honey, I'm not your grandma. Just a lady who lives here." "Oh." Lila looked disappointed. "You seem like a grandma. You're nice, like Nana." "That's your other grandmother?" Esther asked Ethan. He nodded. "Sarah's mom. We were trying to reach her when everything went wrong." "Well," Esther said, looking back at Lila, "I'm glad you think I'm nice, even if I'm not your grandma." "Can I pretend?" Lila asked. "Lila," Ethan started. "Just for today," the girl pressed. "Just pretend, 'cause it's like Nana's house. It's warm and safe, and you smell like cookies." "I don't have any cookies," Esther said, but her voice was gentle. "You smell like you might make them. Someday." Esther felt tears prick her eyes. She blinked them back hard. "You can pretend for today," she said, "if that makes you feel better." "Okay." Lila smiled, small but real. "Thanks, Grandma Esther." Ethan looked at Esther over his daughter's head, mouthing, "Thank you." She waved him off, not trusting herself to speak. The day passed slowly. The snow continued to fall, though less violently. Ethan tried his cell phone periodically, no signal. Esther checked her landline, still dead. "We're stuck until the roads get cleared," Ethan said. "Could be tomorrow morning if we're lucky." "I got enough food for another day," Esther said. "It'll be tight, but we'll manage." "I can pay you. For the food, for everything." "I don't want your money." "Then let me help. What needs doing around here?" Esther almost said no, but then she looked at the pile of firewood that needed stacking, at the snow that had drifted against the back door, at the dripping pipe under the kitchen sink she'd been ignoring for 3 weeks. "There's a few things," she admitted. They spent the afternoon working together. Ethan stacked the wood-shoveled snow, fixed the pipe, while Esther gave him instructions and tools. Lila, wrapped in the quilt, watched from the couch, occasionally offering commentary. "You're good at this," Esther said as Ethan tightened the last pipe connection. "I used to do this kind of work before." He didn't elaborate, and Esther didn't push. That evening, she made soup, simple chicken soup, with the last vegetables in her fridge and some dried noodles from the cupboard. They ate together at the little table, all 3 of them, like a makeshift family. "This is the best soup I've ever had," Lila declared. "You're just hungry," Esther said, but she was pleased. "No, really. It tastes like love." Ethan's spoon paused halfway to his mouth. Esther felt her throat tighten again. "My mama used to say that," Lila continued. "She said Nana's soup tasted like love because she put love in it while she cooked." "Your mama was right," Esther said softly. "That's the secret ingredient." After dinner, Lila curled up on the couch again, and Esther found herself telling stories about Samuel, about the cabin, about the time a bear tried to get into their trash, and Samuel chased it off wearing nothing but his boxers and boots. Lila giggled. Even Ethan laughed. It felt good. It felt dangerous. It felt like something Esther couldn't afford to want. That night, Esther gave Ethan a blanket and pillow for the chair. She kept the door to her bedroom open, still cautious, but not as afraid as she'd been the night before. "Esther," Ethan's voice came quietly through the darkness. "Yeah, thank you. For everything. I mean it." "Go to sleep," she said gruffly, but she was smiling as she said it. Morning brought silence, the kind of silence that meant the storm had finally stopped. Esther woke to light streaming through her bedroom window and the sound of voices in the kitchen. For one confused, heart-stopping moment, she thought Samuel was alive, that David had come to visit, that her house was full of family again. Then reality settled back in. She pulled on her robe and shuffled to the kitchen joints, protesting. Ethan and Lila sat at the table eating the last of the bread toasted over the stove. "Morning," Ethan said. "I made coffee. Hope that's okay." "Coffee's always okay." Esther poured herself a cup, black and strong. "Storm's over." "Yeah, the roads might be clear enough by afternoon. We should probably try to head out. Find a phone call for help getting the car." "Probably should." Esther sipped her coffee. It was good, better than she usually made it. She didn't say so. Lila looked up from her toast. "Do we have to go, Daddy?" "Yeah, Pumpkin. We've bothered Miss Esther long enough." "You haven't been a bother," Esther said, surprising herself. "But your daddy's right. You need to get home. Get proper rest." "I don't want to leave." Lila's lower lip trembled. "I like it here. I like you being here," Esther admitted, then more gruffly, "but you got a real grandma waiting for you. She's probably worried sick." Ethan checked his phone again. Still no signal, but yeah, Mom's probably freaking out. We were supposed to be there yesterday morning. The next few hours passed in odd domesticity. Esther showed Ethan where the spare boots were. Samuel's old pair, still in good shape. They almost fit. Lila helped Esther make one more small meal canned soup, this time the last in the cupboard. Around noon, they heard the distant rumble of a snowplow. "That's our cue," Ethan said quietly. Esther felt something twist in her chest. She told herself it was indigestion. She knew better. They bundled up Esther, loaning them what extra clothes she had. Ethan wrote down her phone number on a scrap of paper. "In case you need anything," he said. "Or even if you don't, just to check in." "I don't need checking on." "I know, but I'd like to anyway." Before she could argue, Lila threw her arms around Esther's waist. "Thank you, Grandma Esther," the little girl said, voice muffled against Esther's robe. "I love you." Esther's hands hovered over the child's head for a moment, uncertain. Then she let them settle, stroking Lila's hair. "I love you too, baby," she whispered. When Lila pulled back, her eyes were wet. So were Esther's. Ethan extended his hand. Esther shook it. His grip was firm, warm. "I mean it about staying in touch," he said. "We'll see. I'll call, whether you like it or not." "Pushy. Determined." He smiled. "There's a difference." Then they were gone, trudging down the snowy driveway toward the road. Esther stood on the porch, watching until they disappeared around the bend. The cabin felt too quiet. She went inside, closed the door, and locked it. The quilt was folded neatly on the couch. The dishes were washed and put away. Everything was exactly as it should be, except Esther felt like she'd lost something. She told herself she was being foolish. She'd known them for 2 days. You don't get attached to strangers in 2 days. But she could still smell Lila's little girl shampoo scent on the quilt, could still hear Ethan's quiet thank yous, could still feel the phantom weight of a child's arms around her waist. This is why you don't open the door, she told herself, because then you have to close it again. 3 weeks passed. Esther waited for the phone call, for a letter, for anything. Nothing came. Of course not, she thought bitterly. You were just a convenience, a shelter in the storm. Now they're back to their real lives, and you're back to yours. But it hurt more than she'd expected, more than it should have. And then things started to fall apart. The letter came first. Official state envelope, red stamp in the corner. She opened it with shaking hands. "Dear Miss Coleman, due to budget constraints, the Senior Assistance Program has been discontinued. Your benefits will cease as of March 1st. Her benefits, the $75 a month that help pay for her prescriptions." She sat down hard at the kitchen table. 2 days later, another letter. The library where she'd been cleaning had closed permanently. Budget cuts again. No severance pay for part-time employees. That was her only income besides Social Security. Esther spread out her bills on the table: electricity, propane, property tax, insurance, phone. The numbers didn't lie. She was short, very short. She could sell more things, but she'd already sold everything valuable. The rest was just life. Samuel's old boots, her mother's Bible, David's baby clothes still packed in a box in the closet. Things you didn't sell unless you had no choice. She started skipping meals. Just one a day was enough for an old woman, she told herself. Coffee for breakfast, soup for dinner. That was plenty. But she was tired, so tired. And the cold seemed to seep deeper into her bones. March became April. The property tax bill arrived. Final notice: if she didn't pay by May 15th, the county would begin foreclosure proceedings. Esther sat alone in the dark cabin. She'd started turning off lights to save electricity and stared at the number $2, 847.23. She had $186 in her bank account. For the first time in her 70 years, Esther Coleman didn't know what to do. She thought about calling someone, but who? She had no family. Her friends from church had drifted away after Samuel died. She hadn't wanted people fussing over her, so she'd pushed them away. Said she was fine. Said she didn't need help. Now she needed help, and there was no one to ask. She tried to find work. She went to every store, every restaurant, every office in Cedar Hollow. But the answer was always the same. "We're so sorry, but we need someone who can lift heavy boxes, stand for long shifts, work evenings." What they meant was, "You're too old." One manager at a convenience store had been kind. "Look, ma'am, I wish I could help, but corporate would have a fit about the insurance liability. I'm sorry." Insurance liability. Like she was one fall away from being someone's expensive problem. May 1st arrived. 2 weeks until the tax deadline. Esther sat at her kitchen table and cried. Really cried for the first time since Samuel's funeral. Great gulping sobs that shook her whole body. She was going to lose the house Samuel built, the house where they'd raised David, the house with the kitchen where Samuel had taught her to make biscuits, the porch where they'd watched summer thunderstorms, the bedroom where he died holding her hand. All of it gone. because she was old and poor and alone, and the world didn't have room for people like her anymore. The crying eventually stopped. She sat in the growing darkness, too tired to even turn on a light. Her eyes fell on the drawer, the one where she'd shoved that business card weeks ago, telling herself she'd never use it. Ethan Ward, Chief Executive Officer, Ward Industries. She'd looked it up online at the library before it closed. Ward Industries, major construction equipment manufacturer, revenue in the hundreds of millions. Ethan Ward, CEO, wealthy, powerful, someone who lived in a completely different world, someone who'd sat at her table and eaten her soup and called it good. Esther pulled out the card, stared at the phone number. "Don't you dare," her pride said. "You don't beg. You don't ask for handouts. You'd rather lose the house than lose your dignity." But another voice, softer, wearier, whispered, "Pride doesn't keep you warm. Pride doesn't keep a roof over your head." And underneath that, Samuel would tell you to call. Mama would tell you to call. Sometimes asking for help is the bravest thing you can do. Her hand shook as she picked up the phone. She dialed. It rang once, twice, 3 times. "Ward Industries, Mr. Ward's office. How may I help you?" A secretary. Of course he had a secretary. What was she thinking men like that didn't answer their own phones? Her voice came out as a croak. She cleared her throat. "I need to speak to Ethan Ward, please." "May I ask who's calling?" "Esther Coleman. He knows me." "One moment, please." Muzak. Terrible tinny Muzak. Esther almost hung up. Then Ethan's voice, surprised and warm. "Is that really you?" "Yeah." Her throat felt like sandpaper. "It's me." "My God, I'm so glad you called. I've been meaning to, but things got crazy and Are you all right? You sound upset." "I'm fine. Say it. Just say it. I need to ask you something." "Anything." "What do you need?" "Do you know anyone who's hiring?" The words came out in a rush. "For cleaning or cooking or anything an old woman can do. I lost my job and I'm in a bit of trouble with my bills." Silence on the other end, long enough that Esther's stomach dropped. "Esther," Ethan said finally, his voice careful. "What kind of trouble? It doesn't matter. I just thought if you knew someone..." "Tell me. Please." She closed her eyes. "I'm going to lose my house. Property taxes. I can't pay them." "How much do you need?" "I'm not asking you for money." The words came out sharp. "I'm asking if you know anyone hiring." I know. But how much is it? The tax bill." $2,800. Saying it out loud made her want to cry again. "I know it's a lot. I just need time to earn it, but nobody's hiring and I'm coming there." "What?" "I'm coming to Cedar Hollow. Right now. Today. Don't do anything. Just wait for me." "Okay." "Ethan, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. You saved my daughter's life. You think I'm going to let you lose your house?" His voice was fierce. "Just wait for me. I'll be there in 3 hours." He hung up before she could argue. Esther sat in the dark kitchen holding the silent phone and wondered if she'd just made a terrible mistake. Ethan's truck pulled up at 4:47 p.m. Esther had spent the intervening hours in a state of agitated anxiety, alternating between cleaning the already clean cabin and second-guessing every decision that had led to this moment. When she heard the engine, her first instinct was to hide, to pretend she wasn't home. Instead, she opened the door. Ethan climbed out of a truck that probably cost more than her house. He looked the same flannel shirt, jeans, work boots, but somehow different, more polished, more certain. Lila tumbled out of the passenger side, bundled in a pink, puffy coat. "Grandma Esther," she shrieked, running up the porch steps. Esther caught her stumbling back a step. "Easy, baby. You'll knock me over. I missed you so much. Daddy said you called and that we could come see you, and I was so happy I cried. Look." She pulled something from her pocket. "I made you a picture." It was a crayon drawing a small house with smoke curling from the chimney and 3 stick figures holding hands. "That's you and me and Daddy," Lila explained, "from when we stayed here. It's my favorite memory." Esther's vision blurred. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. Thank you." Ethan had climbed the porch steps carrying 2 large bags. "Hey," he said softly. "Hey." Esther wiped her eyes quickly. "You didn't have to come all this way." "Yes, I did." He set the bags down. "Can we come in?" She stepped aside. Inside, Lila immediately ran to the couch. "This is where I slept," while Ethan set the bags on the kitchen table. "What's all this?" Esther asked warily. "Groceries, and some things I thought you might need." He started unpacking coffee bread, eggs, real butter, chicken, vegetables, milk. More food than Esther had seen in her kitchen in months. "I can't accept all this." "You can, and you will." He kept unpacking. "When's the last time you had a real meal?" "I eat fine." "Esther." He stopped meeting her eyes. "Your face is thinner." You're paler. Don't lie to me." She looked away. "I've been economizing." "You've been starving yourself." His voice was gentle but firm. "That stops now. You can't just—" "I can. I am. We're going to sit down and you're going to tell me exactly what's going on, all of it, and then we're going to fix it." He pulled out a chair. "Please, sit." Esther sat more out of exhaustion than obedience. Ethan sat across from her. Lila climbed into his lap. "Tell me," he said. So she did. All of it. The lost benefits, the lost job, the mounting bills, the property tax deadline, the interviews where she was too old, too slow, too much of a liability. "I've been selling things," she said quietly, "whatever I can, but there's nothing left worth selling. And I can't sell this house. Samuel built it with his own hands. Our son grew up here. It's all I have left of them." "Then you won't lose it," Ethan said simply. "I can't pay you back. That's the thing. Even if you give me the money, I can't—" "I'm not giving you money." He leaned forward. "I'm offering you a job." Esther blinked. "What?" "A job, real position, real salary, benefits, retirement, the whole deal. Doing what I told you, I can't lift heavy boxes, or running a community program. A new initiative my company is starting." He spoke quickly, excitement building in his voice. "For the past 3 weeks, I haven't been able to stop thinking about what you did. You opened your door to strangers in a storm. You helped us when you had every reason not to. And I thought, how many people are out there like you were that night, scared, alone, one bad day away from disaster?" "A lot," Esther said quietly. "Exactly. So I want to do something about it. Create support networks for vulnerable populations, elderly folks, single parents, anyone falling through the cracks. Safe spaces, resource centers, direct assistance programs. And I need someone who understands what it's actually like to run it. Not some business school consultant. Someone who's lived it." Esther stared at him. "You want me to run this? I want you to build it from the ground up. Your vision, your rules. You'd have a staff, a budget, real resources to make actual change." He reached across the table. "But here's the thing, it would have to be a real job. You'd be working. This isn't charity. I don't have a degree. I don't have experience. You have something better. You have wisdom. You have empathy. You have the kind of practical knowledge that can't be taught in a classroom." He squeezed her hand. "Look, I'm not going to lie. It'll be hard work. You'd have to learn new skills, work with my team, navigate bureaucracy. But I think you can do it. And I think you'd be incredible at it." "Why?" Esther's voice cracked. "Why would you do this for me?" "Because you did it for us first." Ethan's eyes were bright. "You saved Lila's life. You gave us shelter when we had nothing. You taught me." He stopped, swallowing hard. "You taught me that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is trust people again, even after you've been hurt." "I was so scared that night," Esther whispered. "I know, but you opened the door anyway." He smiled. "Now I'm asking you to open another one." Lila piped up. "Please say yes, Grandma Esther. Then we can see you all the time." Esther looked at the little girl, then at Ethan, then around her small kitchen, at the peeling wallpaper, the cracked linoleum, the empty cabinets that Ethan had just filled with food, at the life she'd been barely holding on to, and the possibility of something new. "I have conditions," she said finally. "Name them. I'm not your charity case. This program, I get real authority. I make real decisions. I don't want to be some figurehead while other people do the actual work." "Agreed. And if I think something's wrong, if your company is doing something that hurts people instead of helping them, I'm going to say so. Loudly. I'd expect nothing less. And I need," she took a shaky breath, "I need to pay my property taxes myself, out of my salary. Not a gift, not a loan, a paycheck I earned." Ethan nodded slowly. "We can advance you the money against future salary. Would that work?" "As long as it's earned." "It will be. You'll be earning every penny, trust me." He extended his hand. "Do we have a deal?" Esther looked at his hand for a long moment. She thought about her mother, who'd always said, "The Lord opens doors in mysterious ways." She thought about Samuel, who'd taught her that sometimes you have to build something new from the ruins of what's been lost. She thought about that night in the storm when she'd heard a child coughing in the darkness and made a choice. She took Ethan's hand. "We have a deal." Lila cheered, and for the first time in months, Esther Coleman smiled. Really smiled. The learning curve was steep. Esther spent the first month feeling completely overwhelmed. Ethan set her up with an office in Ward Industries headquarters, a sleek glass building in Denver that made her little cabin look like a shoebox. Everyone was so young, so fast, so fluent in business speak, she barely understood. Synergy, bandwidth, low-hanging fruit. What the hell did fruit have to do with helping people? But she learned. Slowly, stubbornly, she learned. Sarah Chen, the company's operations director, became her reluctant tutor. "You want to reach elderly populations," Sarah said during one of their first meetings. "Here's what you need: a budget projection, a demographic analysis, a program timeline, and measurable outcomes." "I need a budget, sure," Esther replied, "but I also need people who actually care. And I need those people to listen to the folks we're trying to help, not talk at them." Sarah blinked. That's not standard practice. Maybe it should be. They clashed constantly in those early days. Sarah wanted data-driven metrics. Esther wanted home visits and community dinners. Sarah wanted quarterly reports. Esther wanted to know if Mrs. Johnson down on 5th Street had enough to eat. "You can't scale compassion," Sarah argued. "Watch me," Esther shot back. But gradually, something unexpected happened. They started to respect each other. Sarah learned to listen. Esther learned to document. Together, they began building something that actually worked. The program got a name, Safe Harbor Initiative, because everyone needs a safe place when the storm hits. Esther explained to the board. They allocated her a budget modest at first, then larger as Ethan fought for more funding. Esther hired staff, a social worker, a part-time nurse, 2 community outreach coordinators. She insisted on interviewing everyone herself. "Tell me about a time you needed help," she'd ask candidates. "And tell me if you got it." The ones who couldn't answer, who'd never struggled, never been vulnerable, she didn't hire. The ones who had stories, scars, hard-won wisdom, those were her people. 6 months in, they opened their first Safe Harbor Center in a low-income neighborhood just outside Cedar Hollow. It was a small building, used to be a community rec center before funding dried up, but Esther transformed it. A warm reception area, a food pantry but organized like a grocery store so people could choose with dignity, a job resource center, a children's corner, a kitchen where volunteers prepared free meals 3 times a week. "This doesn't look like a charity," Sarah noted, surveying the space. "That's the point," Esther said. "People don't want handouts. They want a hand up." The first week, 11 people showed up. The second week, 34. By the 3rd month, they were serving over 200 people regularly. Esther worked harder than she had in years. She arrived early, stayed late, visited homes, sat with people who just needed someone to listen. Her arthritis screamed in protest. She ignored it. "You need to pace yourself," Ethan warned her one evening, finding her still at her desk at 8 p.m. "I'm fine." "You're 70 years old." "I'm aware." She looked up at him, eyes sharp. "You think I should slow down because I'm old. I think you should slow down because you're working yourself to death. Better to die doing something that matters than to die alone in a cold house." She softened slightly. "But I hear you. I'll try to rest more." She didn't really. There was too much to do. Like the man who came in needing help with his VA benefits paperwork. Esther sat with him for 3 hours, navigating the bureaucratic maze until they finally got through. Like the single mother who showed up with 3 kids and nowhere to go after her apartment flooded. Esther found her emergency housing and a week's worth of groceries. Like the elderly veteran living in his car because his Social Security barely covered his medications. Esther connected him with housing assistance and a prescription support program. One by one, person by person, Esther rebuilt what the system had broken, and people noticed. The local newspaper ran a story, "From recipient to resource, how one woman is changing lives." The headline made Esther uncomfortable. She didn't like being the story, but it brought attention. Donations increased, more volunteers signed up. Then came the interview requests, the speaking invitations. Suddenly, everyone wanted to hear from the elderly woman revolutionizing community care. "I'm not revolutionizing anything," she told Ethan, exasperated. "I'm just doing what should have been done all along." "Exactly," he said. "That's why people are paying attention." Lila had become a regular fixture at the center, coming after school twice a week with Ethan. She'd help in the children's corner, reading to the younger kids, coloring with them. The elderly clients adored her. "That girl's got your heart," Mrs. Patterson, one of their regulars, told Esther one day. "She's not mine to claim," Esther replied. "Maybe not by blood, but by everything that matters. She's yours, honey." Esther watched Lila across the room, carefully tying a little boy's shoelace, and felt that dangerous warmth spread through her chest again. "Don't get too attached," she warned herself. "This won't last forever." But God, it felt good while it did. The attention was a double-edged sword. It started with an op-ed in the Cedar Hollow Gazette, questions about Ward Industries' new charity program. Esther read it with mounting anger. While Safe Harbor Initiative presents itself as a grassroots community effort, it's funded entirely by Ward Industries, raising questions about corporate influence in social services. The program is directed by Esther Coleman, a 70-year-old woman with no relevant educational background or experience in nonprofit management. Is this genuine community aid or an elaborate PR stunt? PR stunt, Esther muttered, crumpling the paper. I'll show them a PR stunt. But it got worse. A local politician, Richard Brennan, who'd been trying to cut social services budgets for years, seized on the article. He went on the radio questioning Ward Industries' motives, calling Safe Harbor corporate welfare masquerading as charity. And this Coleman woman, he said smoothly, I'm sure she means well. But appointing someone with no credentials to run a major community program, it's irresponsible. It's insulting to trained professionals. Esther turned off the radio before she threw it across the room. The criticism stung. Not because Brennan was wrong, she didn't have credentials, not the traditional kind, but because it hit exactly where she was most vulnerable. She'd been fighting imposter syndrome since day one. Now everyone else was saying it out loud. Ignore him, Ethan said when she called. He's a hack who's mad because we're actually helping people instead of just talking about it. He's not wrong though. I'm not qualified, not on paper. You're qualified where it counts. You know what people need because you've lived it. That's worth more than a dozen degrees. Easy for him to say. He had degrees. He had credentials. Nobody questioned his right to be in charge. Then came the protest. 40 people showed up outside the Safe Harbor Center one Monday morning, holding signs, "Nothing about us without us. Community control, not corporate control. Where's our voice?" Esther stood at the window watching them. Her first instinct was to be angry. "I'm trying to help you," she wanted to shout. "Why are you attacking me?" But then she read the signs more carefully, listened to what they were chanting. They weren't saying the program was bad. They were saying they wanted input. They wanted control over services in their own community. And damn it, they were right. Esther walked outside. The crowd quieted as she approached. A young man with a megaphone, couldn't be more than 25, stepped forward. "You in charge here?" "I am." "Then you need to hear us. We appreciate what you're trying to do, but you're doing it to us, not with us. You didn't ask what we needed. You decided for us." "You're right," Esther said. He blinked. "What?" "You're right. I was so focused on helping that I didn't stop to ask. That was wrong." She raised her voice so everyone could hear. "But I'm asking now. Come inside, all of you. Let's talk about how to make this better." Muttering from the crowd, suspicious looks. "I'm serious," Esther continued. "You want community control? Let's figure out what that looks like. But we're not going to do it out here in the cold. Come inside. I've got coffee on." The young man looked at his fellow protesters. Someone nodded, then another. "All right," he said. "We'll talk." They filed into the center, 40 people cramming into the meeting room. Esther made everyone coffee, broke out the cookies, and sat down. "Here's what I'm proposing," she said. "We create a community advisory board. You elect your own representatives. They have real power, veto power over programs, budget input, hiring decisions. We work together, equal partners." "How do we know you'll actually listen?" a woman in the back asked. "You don't. Not yet, but I'm giving you the power to make me listen." Esther met each person's eyes. "Look, I'm just one old woman trying to do some good. I'm going to make mistakes, but I'd rather make them with you than for you." Silence, then slowly nods. "When's the first board meeting?" someone asked. "Next Tuesday, 7 p.m. You organize yourselves however you want. Elect whoever you want, and we'll start from there." The young man with the megaphone extended his hand. "I'm Marcus. Esther. I think we're going to fight a lot, Esther." "Good," she said, shaking his hand. "That means we both care." The advisory board became one of the best things about Safe Harbor. They pushed back when Esther got too stubborn. They brought ideas she never would have thought of. They kept her honest. But the media narrative didn't change overnight. Brennan kept hammering away on his radio show. The op-eds continued. Some donors pulled out nervous about the controversy. Then Ward Industries Board got involved. "The program's becoming a liability," the CFO told Ethan during a quarterly meeting. "PR-wise, it's not delivering the goodwill we expected. Financially, it's a drain. We recommend scaling back significantly." Absolutely not, Ethan said. Ethan, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. Safe Harbor is doing exactly what we designed it to do, helping people. If that's not generating enough positive press for you, that's a failure of our PR strategy, not the program. The board feels, I don't care what the board feels. Ethan stood. Safe Harbor continues. Full funding. End of discussion. But it wasn't the end. The board pushed back. They demanded changes. They wanted more oversight, more metrics, more control. Finally, they gave Ethan an ultimatum: separate Safe Harbor from Ward Industries entirely or shut it down. Ethan came to Esther's office late that night. His face was haggard. They're forcing my hand, he said. We have to spin Safe Harbor off into an independent nonprofit. I can still fund it personally, but it can't be a Ward Industries program anymore. Esther absorbed this. What does that mean for the budget? Smaller. Significantly smaller. We'll have to cut staff, reduce services, close at least one location. So, we're being punished for actually helping people. We're being punished for making powerful people uncomfortable. Ethan sank into a chair. I'm sorry. I know this isn't what you signed up for. Esther thought about the people who depended on Safe Harbor. The meals, the job help, the human connection that kept them going. We make it work, she said finally. Smaller is harder, but small can still make a difference. We adapt. You're sure? Do I have a choice? You could quit. Walk away. No one would blame you. Esther laughed, harsh and bitter. I'm 70 years old. I've been knocked down by life more times than I can count. You think I'm going to let a bunch of suits in a boardroom make me quit now? She leaned forward. We make it work. We tighten our belts. We find other funding. And we keep the doors open. Because if we close, who's going to help the people we're helping? Ethan smiled, weary but genuine. You're tougher than anyone I've ever met. I'm tired, Esther corrected, but I'm not done. Transitioning to an independent nonprofit was brutal. They lost 2 staff members immediately. The budget couldn't support them. Esther had to sit across from people she'd hired, people who'd become friends, and tell them there was no more money. I understand, Sarah Chen said when Esther delivered the news. And for what it's worth, you built something real here. That matters. Doesn't feel like it when I'm cutting your job. It does to everyone you helped. Sarah squeezed her hand. Don't forget that. They closed the secondary location, cut back the meal service from 3 times a week to 2, eliminated the part-time nurse position. Every cut felt like failure, but they didn't close. Esther wouldn't let them. She applied for grants, dozens of them, learning a whole new language of funding applications and grant writing. Most were rejected. A few came through. She organized fundraisers, a community dinner where everyone brought a dish, a used clothing sale. Every dollar counted. She reached out to local churches, civic organizations, anyone who might help. Some said no. Some said yes. Slowly, painfully, they rebuilt a sustainable model. But the stress took its toll. Esther started having chest pains. She ignored them. Then one Tuesday afternoon, she collapsed in her office. She woke up in the hospital, Ethan and Lila at her bedside. You had a cardiac event, the doctor said. Not a full heart attack, but close. You need rest. Real rest. I don't have time to rest. You don't have a choice, Ethan said firmly. You're taking a week off. Minimum. The center will survive. Marcus and the advisory board can handle things for a few days. But if you die, everything you built dies with you. So you're going to rest. Doctor's orders and my orders. Esther wanted to argue, but she was so tired. Lila crawled up onto the hospital bed, carefully avoiding the IV line, and curled against Esther's side. Please rest, Grandma. I don't want you to go away like Mama did. That broke something in Esther. She wrapped her arm around the little girl and closed her eyes. Okay, she whispered. Okay, baby. I'll rest. She spent a week at home. Ethan insisted she stay at his house so someone could watch over her. It was strange being cared for instead of caring for others. Strange, but not entirely terrible. Lila read her stories. Ethan cooked her meals. They watched old movies together in the evenings. You know, Esther said one night, I could get used to this. You should, Ethan replied. You deserve to be taken care of too. That's not how I'm built. Maybe it's time to rebuild a little. When she returned to work, she found the center not just surviving, but thriving. Marcus had organized the volunteers brilliantly. The advisory board had implemented a new schedule that actually worked better than the old one. Turns out we didn't need you every second, Marcus said with a grin. Doesn't mean we don't want you back, though. Thanks, I think. But the message was clear. She'd built something strong enough to stand without her. That was success, even if it felt like surrender. Then came the state hearing. A legislator, Representative Julia Martinez, had been watching Safe Harbor's evolution. She proposed a new bill, the Community Support Infrastructure Act. It would allocate state funding for programs modeled after Safe Harbor, creating a statewide network of community centers. But we need testimony, she told Esther over the phone. Real stories. I need you to come to the Capitol and tell them what you've learned. I'm not a public speaker. You don't need to be. Just tell the truth. So Esther found herself at 70 years old standing before the state legislature. She wore her best dress, the one she'd worn to Samuel's funeral. Her hands shook as she gripped the podium. My name is Esther Coleman, she began. I'm nobody special. I'm just an old woman who almost lost everything until someone opened their door to me. She told them about the storm, about Ethan and Lila, about making a choice to trust despite her fear. That's what Safe Harbor is, she said. It's about opening doors, not just physical doors, but doors to opportunity, to dignity, to hope. She looked at the legislators, some listening, some distracted. Some of you think we can't afford programs like this. I say we can't afford not to have them, because every person we help becomes someone who can help others. Every door we open leads to another door opening. She told them specific stories. Mr. Peterson, who found work after 18 months unemployed. Mrs. Nguyen, who got connected with affordable housing. The teenager who got tutoring and graduated high school. These aren't statistics, she said. They're people, your constituents, your neighbors, and they're telling you we need this. Please don't let us down. When she finished, the room was silent for a long moment. Then someone started clapping, then another. Within seconds, most of the chamber was applauding. The bill passed 3 months later. 2 years after that night in the storm, Esther Coleman sat on her porch and watched the snow fall. It was gentler this time, pretty even, the kind of snow that looked like a Christmas card. A truck pulled up Ethan's truck, and 2 figures climbed out. Lila was bigger now, 10 years old, and losing her baby face. She ran up the steps, careful not to slip. Grandma, look what I made in art class. It was a painting this time. The cabin in winter lights glowing in every window. But this time, there were other houses too, a whole neighborhood of light pushing back the darkness. It's beautiful, baby. It's the Safe Harbor Network, Lila explained proudly. My teacher said I should enter it in the state art competition. You should. You'll win. Ethan climbed the steps more slowly, carrying a basket. Brought dinner. Figured we could eat together. You're always feeding me. Someone has to. They went inside, warm, comfortable, familiar. Esther's house didn't look quite as shabby anymore. She'd had some work done courtesy of her salary. New roof, fixed pipes, fresh paint. But more than that, it felt lived in again. There were crayon drawings on the fridge, extra toothbrushes in the bathroom, a little girl's snow boots by the door. They ate dinner roast chicken vegetables biscuits that Ethan had learned to make almost as well as Samuel used to. They talked about Lila's school, about the newest Safe Harbor location opening in Fort Collins, about mundane, precious, everyday things. After dinner, Lila fell asleep on the couch, wrapped in that same quilt from the storm night. Esther and Ethan sat at the kitchen table, drinking coffee. There's something I need to tell you, Ethan said quietly. Esther's heart clenched. You're dying. What? No, God, no. He laughed. Nothing like that. Then what? I wasn't completely honest with you. That night in the storm, here it was, the other shoe finally dropping. You were on the run from the law. You'd murdered someone. You were secretly a serial killer. You've been watching too many crime shows. Ethan shook his head. I told you I work in business. That's true. But I didn't tell you I'm the CEO. Ward Industries. I own the company. Esther stared at him. You're rich. Very. And you let me think you were just some regular guy. I am a regular guy. I just also happen to be wealthy. He met her eyes. I didn't tell you because I wanted you to see me, really see me, not my money. And I thought if you knew, you'd treat me differently. I would have. Esther felt anger rising. I would have thrown you out. Exactly. So you lied. I omitted. There's a difference. The hell there is. She stood up, paced to the window. Outside, snow continued to fall. You let me think we were equals. You sat at my table, ate my food, let me feel like I was helping someone who actually needed it. But you had millions of dollars. You could have stayed at any hotel, hired any help. You didn't need me. Yes, I did. Ethan's voice was soft but intense. Maybe not financially, but I needed God, Esther. I needed to remember that there are still good people in the world. That kindness still exists. That my daughter could be safe with strangers who chose to care. You used me to make yourself feel better about being rich. That's not—" He stopped, took a breath. Maybe at first, but that's not what this became. You know that." "Do I?" She turned to face him. "Because from where I'm standing, you're just like that woman who stole from me. You came into my house under false pretenses. You took something from me." "What did I take?" "My trust." The words burst out louder than she intended. Lila stirred on the couch but didn't wake. Esther lowered her voice. "You made me think we understood each other, that we were both just people trying to survive, but we're not. You live in a mansion. I live in a shack. You never have to worry about paying bills. I'm one bad month away from losing everything even now." "Is that what you really believe?" Ethan asked quietly. "That money makes me different, better, more worthy. I believe money means you don't understand what it's like to be scared all the time. My wife died because I couldn't buy her more time. All the money in the world, and I couldn't save her." His voice cracked. "I held my daughter as she screamed for her mama, and I couldn't give her back. You think money protects you from being scared, from being desperate, from losing the people you love." Esther said nothing. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you about the company," Ethan continued. "You're right, I should have been honest from the start. But I'm not sorry I came to your door that night. And I'm not sorry we became friends. Because that's what we are, Esther. Friends. Equals. Where it matters most. We're not equals. Look at us." "I am looking. I see a woman who opened her door in a storm, who saved my daughter's life, who built something from nothing when everyone said it couldn't be done, who fights every day for people others have given up on." He stood cross to where she stood by the window. "You want to know what I see when I look at you? I see someone stronger than anyone in my boardroom, someone braver than anyone I've ever met, someone who matters more than all the money in my bank account." Esther felt tears threatening. "You should have told me." "I know. I feel like an idiot, like a poor old woman who got played." "You're not an idiot, and I didn't play you. He stopped, seemed to struggle with something. "I needed you to see me, the real me, not the CEO, not the money. Just a scared dad who didn't know what he was doing. And you did. You saw me. And you helped anyway." They stood in silence, snow falling outside Lila, breathing softly on the couch. "I'm still mad," Esther said finally. "I know. It's going to take time for me to trust you again. I know. But," she took a shaky breath, "but I don't want to lose you. Either of you." "You won't." Ethan's voice was fierce. "We're family now. Not because of what I own or what you built. Because we chose each other. That night in the storm and every day since." "Family," Esther repeated. The word felt foreign and precious all at once. "Yeah," Ethan smiled tentative. "If you'll have us." Esther looked at Lila asleep on the couch, at the drawings on the fridge, at this man who'd lied to her but had also never left her side when it mattered, at the life she'd rebuilt from ruins. "I'll have you," she said quietly. "But you ever lie to me again?" "I won't. I swear." She nodded. They stood together by the window, watching the snow, not saying anything more. Some things didn't need words. Spring came to Cedar Hollow with mud and wildflowers. Esther stood outside the newest safe harbor location, this one in a town 3 hours north, and watched the ribbon-cutting ceremony. The mayor was there, Representative Martinez, news cameras, the whole spectacle. She'd rather have been inside making sure the coffee was hot and the intake forms were properly organized. But this was part of the job now. The public part, the visible part. Marcus nudged her. "You're up next." "I hate speeches. You've given like 50 of them by now." "Still hate them." She stepped up to the microphone anyway, looked out at the crowd, community members, donors, volunteers, local officials. "I'm going to keep this short," she said, "because there's work to do inside. But I want to say this safe harbor isn't my program. It's not Ethan Ward's program. It's not even our advisory board's program. It belongs to every person who's ever needed help and to every person who's ever given it." She paused, gathering her thoughts. 3 years ago, I was where some of you are now. Scared, alone, one bad day away from losing everything. And someone opened a door for me. Just that simple act, opening a door, changed everything. She felt her voice thicken. This building, this program, this whole network we're building across the state, it's all just doors. Doors we open for each other when the storms come, because they will come, for all of us. And when they do, we need to know there's a light on somewhere, that someone's waiting. that we're not alone. She looked directly at the cameras. If you're watching this and you're struggling, if you're scared, if you're tired, if you're losing hope, please hear me. There's a door open for you, right here. Come in. We'll make room. The applause was thunderous, but Esther barely heard it. She was already heading inside where the real work waited. The first person through the door was a young woman with a baby. Behind her, an elderly man with a walker. Behind him, a family of 4. One by one, people came in from the cold. Esther greeted each one, learned their names, listened to their stories, connected them with resources, with food, with hope. It was exhausting work, but it was good work. Around noon, Ethan and Lila showed up with lunch. "Thought you might be too busy to eat," Ethan said, handing her a sandwich. "You know me too well." They sat together in the small office, really just a converted closet, and ate. Lila chattered about school, about her science project, about the new friend she'd made. "That friend, is she the one with the single mom?" Esther asked. "Yeah, they're having a hard time. Her mom lost her job. Tell your friend to have her mom call me. We might be able to help." "Already did." Lila grinned. "She's coming tomorrow." "Smart girl." "I learned from the best." Lila hugged her. "Love you, Grandma." "Love you too, baby." After they left, Esther sat alone for a moment. She thought about that night in the storm, about the choice she'd made, about how one decision could ripple out in ways you never imagined. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Another funding application approved. Can expand evening hours. Then one from Sarah Chen, who'd moved to a nonprofit across the state but still kept in touch. Heard about the new location. Proud of you. Then one from a number she didn't recognize. "This is Robert Chen. You helped my father find housing last year. He passed away last month. He was warm and safe because of you. Thank you." Esther read that last one 3 times, cried a little, then got back to work. Evening came. The center closed. Esther locked up, checking every door, every window. But before she left one light on. Always one light visible from the street, just in case someone needed to know they weren't alone in the dark. She drove home the truck Ethan had insisted on buying her because her old car had finally died. Pulled up to her cabin. The place looked good, solid, safe. Inside, she made herself tea, sat in Samuel's old chair, looked at the mantel. It wasn't empty anymore. There were photos now. David as a boy, Samuel on their wedding day, Lila in her school picture, Ethan making a ridiculous face at the last Safe Harbor fundraiser. A family, not the one she'd been born into or the one she'd built with Samuel, but a family nonetheless. The phone rang. She answered. "Esther, it's Julia Martinez. Listen, the governor wants to meet you. She's considering expanding the program statewide, and she wants your input. Are you available next Tuesday?" "I'll make myself available." "Great. Also, there's talk of you receiving a state service award. How do you feel about that?" "I'd rather they give the money to Safe Harbor." Julia laughed. "I'll suggest that. Talk soon." Esther hung up, sipped her tea, looked out the window at the darkness beyond. It was still hard. Life was still hard. People still suffered. The system still failed people every day. She couldn't fix everything, couldn't save everyone, but she could open a door, make a meal, listen to a story, connect someone to help. One person at a time, one choice at a time, one open door at a time. Outside, snow began to fall again. Light, gentle, beautiful. Esther wasn't afraid of it anymore. She'd learned something that night 3 years ago, something that had grown stronger with every person she helped, every crisis she navigated, every door she opened. The bravest thing you can do isn't to lock the world out. It's to let it in, even when you're scared, even when you've been hurt before, even when you don't know what's coming. You open the door, because somewhere out there in the storm, someone is knocking, someone is cold, someone needs help, and you might be the only light they see. Esther finished her tea, washed the cup, turned off the kitchen light, but she left the porch light on, always, just in case.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.